From a conglomerate of highly secure, top secret locations across South Texas, this is the Spurs Insider, the podcast whose magic number is eternally zero. I am your host, Mike Finger, with Express News sports editor Nick Talbot, beat writers Tom Ringo Orsborn, and the polarizing Jeff McDonald. And I just want to say right away, it has become abundantly clear that for a franchise with 5 championships and the pride and history of just decades of success, an organization like that does not just back into the 10th seed. It seizes the 10th seed with gusto. And that is what we are seeing the local Cagers, the San Antonio Spurs, do this week. They're charging headlong into that 10th seed after dispatching the Milwaukee Bucks with great fervor on Monday night, and now are in prime position to play in the play-in tournament. And I just wonder if you guys are as impressed as I am.
Well, how about you go back and just for fun, do the version of that intro as if we recorded it yesterday before the Utah game.
From an assortment of top secret, highly secure locations across South Texas, this is the Spurs Insider, who is falling apart much like the organization it covers. Everything is terrible. This team is not even going to make the play-in. They should move the team to Las Vegas. What do you guys think? Yes, much changes in a day. And to the point of the polarizing Jeff McDonald, outlook has changed as a result of one good night. Is that fair?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, impressive showing for the local Cagers.
Does it mean anything? What that victory does is all, it was all but assured before, but now it's just one San Antonio win or one loss by the Pelicans and Kings, and you're in this play-in tournament. But it is nice to see if you're a team that's probably going to play a winner-take-all game or a loser-lose-all game next week. That you're able to at least rise to the moment every now and then.
Well, they needed to get one of these wins. You say it's all but assured, but they really needed to beat Sacramento, and they really needed to get one more win. It's good to get it out of the way first and not wait till you're sitting there and saying, "Well, I hope the Suns rest someone so they can get that win." Not make it easy on themselves, and beating the Bucks makes it, kind of a statement in an impressive fashion, and that you're into that spot. So it really pushes some momentum forward, which they needed after they lost 6 of 7 before that, and only beat Sacramento. So they did it in an impressive fashion. So I think that's where it gets to be where it was kind of important.
Yeah, like Pop said, this whole week has sort of a playoff flavor to it. For the boys, especially for the young guys, and it's as he put it, it's very useful. I mean, and they were determined to get that win last night. They were locked in. They played Milwaukee really well in the first meeting up in Milwaukee, and it wasn't, from that standpoint, it wasn't all that surprising. They just they have a formula for them, it seems like.
Well, I think that's the general tone of what you just said, Tom, is correct. But I sort of would beg to differ a little bit with Coach Popovich about a whole week with playoff flavor, because, again, like I said last week, there's not a whole lot at stake anymore. And it's not like every night is important. And I can see, they're going up to New York for the next couple of days to play at Brooklyn and at the Knicks. It's just I can't see any realistic scenario where they're higher than 10th or lower than 10th.
I guess it ties into their long-held philosophy of peaking as they go into the playoffs. So
sure,
albeit a very late peak.
Right. If that's the way that he wants to motivate his team, that's great. It's just again, and I'm pro play-in tournament. The Spurs just seem to be that one team out of all these contenders for these 6, 7, 8, 9 spots that don't have a lot at stake, either to gain or to lose over this last week. But maybe they can find a flow, and that'll be what they play for.
I'll tell you
the
what,
NBA
though,
is really going to like the play-in game
12,
now too. Sorry, Jeff. I was just going to say that the NBA is really going to like the play-in game now too if the Lakers and Celtics are both there.
Although they won't like it if the Lakers and Celtics both lose.
That's also true. They both have to win.
Yeah, the Lakers aren't losing twice.
Fan bases will not like the officiating in those games.
Well, I'm going to say once we get to the play-in tournament, the Spurs are going to be tough to beat if they make 12 threes a half. That's a pretty good formula for success.
Where did that come from?
And that's the thing that was surprising to me. I mean, I guess it's just complete variance and luck and the 3-point shooting game, because they just went games and games not being able to hit anything, and then all of a sudden they make all of a sudden they hit 12 and a half against Milwaukee and 17 for the game. They had not hit more than 12 3-pointers in a game since you got to go all the way back to that Atlanta game that was double overtime when they made 13. And they made 12 threes in the first half against Milwaukee. I mean, that's when you do that, you're pretty tough to beat. I just don't know how often they can do that or anything approaching it. They've had so many single-digit 3-point games this season, because I was kind of going back and looking at them game by game. I mean, just so many, just like 4, 5, 7, 8, and that's just so hard to win in the NBA when you're making that few, and especially when you get to a play-in tournament situation where you're playing teams that take if they end up matched up with Memphis, that's one thing. But I can't imagine. I think you're going to have to make threes to beat Steph Curry. That's just my going out on a limb there.
You know what it was, going back to the vintage Spurs Insider podcast from 2019, 2020, it's that Brent Forbes is a terrible defender. And that's clearly why the Spurs made all these 3-pointers, is because he's a sleeper cell agent dispatched by Greg Popovich to he was playing the long game.
CIA Pop, baby. CIA Pop.
He was playing the long game. That he plucked Brent Forbes from obscurity, turned him into a viable NBA starter, then let him just sabotage the team. In the opinion of many Spurs Insider podcast viewers, and I know they're not viewers; they're listeners. But this was all a plan. That then he's going to have to let Brent Forbes go, and it was all leading up to this pivotal night in May of 2021. When Greg Popovich saw years and years ago that he was going to need a victory over the Milwaukee Bucks to claim the 10th seed in the play-in tournament. That is exactly what happened.
It was a genius, nefarious plan to earn a season split with the Milwaukee Bucks.
Correct.
And it came on the same day that Danny Green revealed that the Spurs hold people out for tactical reasons.
Danny Green needs to have a food taster for the foreseeable future.
That's right. Yeah.
Like run all of his meals through whatever tests that got Medina Spirit in the Kentucky Derby. Just to make sure there's nothing going on there.
I'll volunteer for that gig. I'd volunteer for that gig. I mean, I know you might get poisoned, but I'm a fat guy. I like to eat, so it's worth the gamble.
Also yesterday, last night, Jakob Poeltl reasserted himself as the most valuable center in the league.
In the entire league, correct.
In the entire league, yes. Not the greatest, not the best, but the most valuable.
I mean, his team's about to claim the 10th seed.
Yeah, think about how bad they'd be without him, though.
Exactly. They might be 12th or 13th. He's clearly the most valuable center.
Really, it was a great performance. I mean, and as Pop pointed out, a career high 8 assists, no turnovers.
No turnovers.
Yeah,
much more valuable than the Joker. Much more valuable than the Joker.
Yep.
There you go. Indeed. But Jakob is a true center. True center.
That's true. None of this 3-point shooting crap for him.
True center right out of 1998.
I will say when Jeff mentioned the word variance, I think that's probably the explanation for where all these 3-pointers come from. I mean, it's a matter of Rudy Gay and Patty Mills and company all making them at the same time. And you can't count on that, to be serious for a second. You're not going to count on a 12 3-pointer half in that play-in game or the second play-in game or even a series if they get that far. What you kind of want is those guys to spread it out and to not hit all of them on the same. Like, you didn't need the 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th one last night in the first half. You could have done with 6 or 7. And, you hope that when you move forward that you just get a few from Patty, a couple from Rudy. And it's just hard to count on that because the shooters do seem to be streaky. And when they're all missing the same night, it's rough. When they're all making the same night, you get something crazy like last night. Go ahead.
Almost the whole thing was Patty Mills hitting them when he hasn't for months and months. Well, not months and months, but about 6 weeks.
Rudy's been steady.
Because when Pop executed his nefarious plan to let Bryn Forbes go, it sort of left Patty Mills as the only really, like, he's your volume 3-point shooter that's going to approach 40% and shoot a bunch of them. And when he doesn't do that, and when in fact I think he started May like 6 of 26 after hitting like 30% in April, that's just not going to cut it. And he's going to keep shooting them. And if he keeps missing them, it's a problem. If he makes them like he did last night, it's what's the phrase about ships and tides and all boats and stuff. It was that thing that happened.
Save our ship.
Rising tide lifts all boats. Yeah. Rising tide lifts all boats. That was Patty Mills last night. When he makes 6 of 9, the whole night is going to look good from 3-point range.
Yep. Well, another player who hit, I think, 3 last night, we can talk about in greater detail the strides that he's made. Lonnie Walker is not necessarily a 3-point specialist, or I shouldn't have even said necessarily there. He's not a 3-point specialist. But even in, I guess it was the Sacramento game the other night, was the Spurs' best player at times. It seems like he is having a stretch or having kind of a coming out party that we might have seen from Keldon and DeJounte at times this year. I'm higher on Lonnie Walker the fourth now than I might have been throughout his career so far.
Yeah, toggling.
Yeah, he's played well and he's playing well.
Yeah. Bouncing back and forth, bench. He's going to be in the Manu role. Now he's starting. It's been neat to see. He toggles back and forth. And, I was impressed. I've been impressed with him, his shooting of late.
A lot of it with him is just consistency and decision making and learning to play at a speed that maybe is, I don't know what I'm trying to say. Like, he can play at 100 miles an hour, but sometimes that's not the best way to play. When it gets out of whack for him, it can look bad because he's playing so fast and so aggressively that he gets going to the rim and doesn't know what he's going to do with it and gets, throws it away or challenges a shot blocker he maybe shouldn't. I think a lot of that is youth and, learning to read situations and things like that. But it seems like everything has sort of, he's making better decisions in the last few games. And so you're seeing it. He's knocking down the threes when he needs to. When they have to come out and guard him at the 3-point range line, and especially against teams that don't have anybody to guard the rim, I mean, nobody can stop him from getting there.
Yeah.
And I think Sean made the point last night on the broadcast that he's finishing at the rim better, now more than perhaps we've seen.
Well,
and how to get that's actually the most important part of the drive is getting the ball in the basket, and he's doing that a little.
I would
better.
agree with that. I don't think that's polarizing at all. That getting the ball in the basket is the most important part of the drive. I don't understand why people don't like you.
I don't know. I ask my mom that all the time.
She has her reasons.
Yeah.
I don't want to get into the future of, into off-season decisions or what have you yet. We've got time for that later, but in future podcasts. But one question that I think about a lot in watching Spurs games this year is, right now DeMar DeRozan is obviously the closer, the finisher, and should he not be around in the future, I often wonder who becomes that guy, whether there will be one guy or multiple guys or whatever. And I think we've seen, even for a team that's lost, 6 of 8 or however many it's been, you see every now and then just glimmers of possibility that it could be, whether, Lonnie Walker had a strong finish against Sacramento the other night. You see, even though he's been struggling, DeJounte Murray become at least that kind of playmaker at times. And I'm wondering what you guys think, how anything you've seen recently bodes for the future of the Spurs and who becomes that guy down the road.
I think if DeMar DeRozan is not there tomorrow for some reason, and the game comes down to you need a last shot late, I think it might be DeJounte Murray that you try to go to. He seems to be the one guy that, like DeMar, can get to the spot he wants to get to for that pull-up jumper. So I think that's the guy I've been looking at lately as sort of the closer in waiting, so to speak. Lonnie, too, like you mentioned, had the good game against the Kings. He was able to get to the rim for some baskets when they needed them late. But when I'm thinking of who you're going to go to in a tough spot when they know what you're going to do, the other team knows what you're going to do, they're going to guard it. They're going to put some pressure on you. DeJounte is the guy that can get to where he wants to get with a shot that he's comfortable with. So I don't know that he would be great in that role right this second, but I think he's a guy that could grow into it possibly.
Lonnie can do it at 3 levels. I mean, he can hit the 3 as well as get.
That's a good point.
So too. It's an interesting question.
And hovering over all this, we forget that Derek White still exists.
Yes.
He's not available for the rest of the season, but he could be a guy, and maybe that's how things work. And again, I'm not jumping ahead to saying DeMar's not going to be around next year, but he's not going to be around forever. And if these are your core guys, DeJounte, Lonnie, Derek White, Keldon Johnson, it might just be a case of who has the best defensive matchup. But I think in sussing this out, one thing that's going to become clear at some point in the future is how much we underrated how valuable it is to know that one player, DeMar DeRozan, is going to get that opportunity in every spot, no matter who is guarding him, no matter if they double team him. He's going to be the guy that wants to take that shot, and B, makes it a lot of times. Go ahead.
What game did Pop drew up that play, the inbounds play from Rudy to Lonnie at the rim? What game was that where they screwed it up with 16 seconds left? Was it Boston, Philly? But anyway,
it might have been Boston. Yeah,
that was a clutch situation where Pop actually drew up the play for Lonnie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It might have, if it was Philly, then DeMar wasn't playing, so that would kind of make sense.
Yeah. Our viewers are screaming at us right now. So they know the answer, and these idiots on the podcast have no idea what they're talking about.
Oh yeah,
it's going to be.
I'll be honest. Last week was hard. The late games are hard. They're not so hard when you're in Sacramento and in Portland and covering them at a normal hour. But staying up to work a game past 1 a.m. is tough on old men such as myself, especially when those old men have children that have to get to school in the morning. So my brain can be a little foggy at times, and the games run together. There's also been, I think this is accurate, 742 games since March. So they all run together.
While you're telling yourself.
Anyhow, going back to what I was going to say, they are going to miss DeMar in terms of knowing who you're going to go to, in a clutch situation for a clutch basket. But I mean, the team I feel really bad for that's never going to be able to figure that out is the Brooklyn Nets. You don't want to be the Brooklyn Nets.
Yeah.
I have no idea who should get the ball in a big situation.
Yeah. It's you wouldn't want to be Steve Nash.
It was Boston. It was Boston. Yeah. That was the game.
Okay.
Yeah, I cheated. I looked it up. It's Boston.
I wanted to let the viewers.
You're not supposed to do research for this. Come on.
I know it. But I said Boston or Philly. So
you're right. I also want to let the viewers know that after Jeff told his sob story of all his trauma and hardships, that Jeff should mention his GoFundMe so people could contribute to him and help him get through this very, very difficult time.
Fund?
Yeah.
Give me a nice weighted blanket.
Yeah. So I'm almost loath to do this because as much as I enjoy the listeners and people are supportive, I still consider I don't know. It's almost like we're opening up the floodgates if we actually acknowledge that they have questions that we should answer. Like, I don't know. If once we answer this one, then we're going to get others. And, do we really want to have to answer to the public? Like, are you guys okay with that?
I mean, you sound like you should run for office.
That's what I'm saying. Like, I prefer autonomy and not having any consequences, not having anyone to answer to. But I suppose we can do one. Luis Vasquez, our producer, put out a call for questions, and we got one from freaking Australia. Can you believe that?
Hey,
like that's a long way. That's a long way to send a question.
Yeah,
I don't know how podcasts work, but maybe they're the only people up when we air.
that might be right. Okay, we'll answer this question. Yeah. We'll see how it goes, and then if people want to send more, I guess we could do more. I just don't want the listeners to feel too powerful. Anyway, so the cheetah from Melbourne, Australia, says, how good a defender is Keldon Johnson currently, and how do you rate his potential to improve as a defender? Love listening to the show from Melbourne, Australia. Thanks, guys. We appreciate you, Cheetah.
I don't know how to rate that though.
Now you sound like Greg Popovich.
Scale of 1 to 10.
Yeah. So now this could be a fun part of the podcast. Is now the listeners get to know exactly how it feels to be the polarizing Jeff McDonald, because you just asked a question to a so-called authority figure that you thought was well thought out, and then that person just throws it back in your face. Because if Greg Popovich was asked that question, he'd say, I don't know how to rate that. What do you want, a number?
Yeah, and what do I have? Do I have a meter, some kind of meter that gauges this?
Yeah.
This is how we're going to answer all the questions from now. Just crap on them.
Now we have a good space here.
Ask us a question.
Jeez Louise.
Ask us a question that we can just mock. Jeez Louise. I think.
Now the one that's the answer that's gonna be hard to come across on the podcast is the one where he just stares into space and doesn't answer at all.
I think
that's not gonna really translate.
Do you guys? Hey, Cheetah from Melbourne, Australia. Did you stay up all night thinking of that question to ask me? That's another pop go to. No, it's a good question. I think that Keldon Johnson is a fine defender right now, and he has the potential to improve. How about that?
I will answer seriously. I'll be the one that does it. I mean, I don't have a great answer.
No, I really hope that you do. Go ahead.
I don't have a great answer, but I mean, he's not one of the guys you think of as the Spurs lockdown defenders. Right. I mean, I think people throw DeJounte Murray and Derek White in that category. Right. When you think of them, but Keldon has drawn some of the most difficult matchups of the season just based on the position he plays. Last night, kind of Giannis was his problem to defend. So it's hard to gauge in that sense because he's often guarding some of the toughest matchups on the team and guys that are bigger than him. But he has the physical skills and he has the want to, and he's also only 21 years old. So I think once he figures out, because playing defense isn't just those things. It's not just your skills and your want to. Those are the starting points. It's a learned thing. Like you have to learn how to do it at the NBA level. how to not play with your hands, how to move with your feet, how to be in the right place at the right time. It's all comes with playing a lot. So I think he'll improve in that, just like he'll improve in everything else as he goes forward. Is that a good answer?
Sure, and I think that Cheetah appreciates that, and I think to kind of build off of that topic, that's nice of him from Melbourne to start this.
I feel like that was Pop answering a question. If it was like New York or LA when he wants.
If he wanted to be nice,
actually.
Where do you see his best role? This year, he's basically been playing power forward all season. I'm not sure how they list the positions officially, but he's playing the 4 in this lineup. For all intents and purposes, is he out of position there, or in this modern NBA? Does he need to be? Does he need the Spurs to have 2 guys bigger than him in the lineup to where he's not guarding Giannis and Siakam and some of these guys that he's guarded this year?
I mean, he'd probably enjoy that, not having to guard the 2-time MVP. But I don't know.
What?
I don't know how to do. I don't know how to arrange that. Like,
okay,
he is what he is right now. He has to play what he has to play.
Put it another way. If the Spurs are going to be drafting in a few months, do they? Where is their need if they wanted to add a starter for this lineup? Is it it's obviously not a point guard. Is it a wing player, or is it a more interior player?
Well, optimally, it would be a big man who can play around the rim but also shoot threes. But I'm not sure if you get that at 11, 12, or wherever the Spurs will be drafted.
Or it could be via free agency.
It's not like they tanked and got the first pick and can pick whatever they want. Yeah. One thing this isn't really the question you asked.
Go ahead.
But one thing that would help Keldon be maybe a little more versatile is if he could shoot the 3-point.
Yeah.
With any more
I think
consistency.
I think he'll get there
and do anything in the in between game. Like it's he does get in these modes where he's not hitting the 3, and all he really knows to do from there is just put his head down and go, which is admirable. Like, he's being aggressive. Mm-hmm. And when you're playing a team that maybe doesn't have the best interior defense, he can get a lot done that way. But against some of these teams that have guys that can really clog the paint against them, he just goes in there against like Rudy Gobert, and it doesn't work out for him. So if he had another option, whether it be just knocking down the 3 at a 40% rate, I think he's at 30 right now. I mean, if he could add 10% to that 3-point game at some point, and also develop this mid-range game where they run him off the line, he takes a couple dribbles, doesn't go all the way to the rim where, Rudy Gobert is eating him for lunch, and just pulls up from 10-12 and knocks down that. And all that would help him be a more versatile player. You could play him in different situations at different spots. Because I do think you're right. In a perfect world, he's not guarding Giannis, the Giannis types every night. That's somebody with a little more size and mobility. I mean, but the person that guards Giannis has to have mobility too. You can't just have 2 Jakob Poeltls out there. Right?
Yeah.
So,
speaking of Keldon,
it's a tough call.
Go ahead, Tom.
Speaking of Keldon, one of the great things about a rare Spurs blowout is the cameras will catch him on the bench with his sideline antics, like last night after Gorgie's, rim to rim lay-in with the ending with the Euro step, and Keldon doing the imitation on the sidelines is always entertaining.
One thing that we miss during this pandemic is not being around the players enough to kind of get a feel of who the locker room likes, how they get along, that type of thing. But you can tell even
it's gotta
through the broadcast how much everybody enjoys Keldon. It seems like just everybody does.
I'm the one thing I'm going to miss when they put fans back in the arena and you can't hear things is hearing Keldon just scream and empty gyms after doing good things.
Yeah.
I'm going to miss that.
Yeah. One thing that you never will miss, if you go to expressnews.com and subscribe.
You're squeezing in under the gun. Yeah.
One thing you'll never miss is any of the breaking news happening with the local Cagers or anything happening in the entire South Texas region, city of San Antonio. You get the best up-to-date information, analysis, find out what's happening in your community. You can get every now and then just star investigative reporters like our Tom Ringo Orsborn uncovering dirt in the community. Just making your community a better place to live. Go to expressnews.com, subscribe to the Spurs Nation newsletter. We'd really appreciate it. We'd also appreciate it if you rate our podcast. Be honest, because we are a podcast of truth. We are a organization of truth, and we would not like you to lie about how much our podcast stinks. We want you to tell the truth about how great it is. So go ahead and rate that. That helps us a lot. And we are hitting the stretch run. Is there anything that I missed this week, fellow panelists, that you think we should discuss?
The Spurs are having a former assistant coach inducted in the Hall of Fame this week. That's a positive note to end on.
Oh yeah, that is. One of the more legendary assistant coaches this league has had.
Yes. And of course, I'm referring to Ime Udoka.
Yes. So I can't believe we made it this far without mentioning Timmy. That's an oversight on my part. But again, you're trying to end on a high note. I'm kind of bummed by the fact that this, first of all, is happening on the same day that his team plays a basketball game. Like, that's weird.
Yes, it's all messed up.
Second of all, that there's not the pomp and circumstance of, induction weekend. In most years, you'd have a Express News reporter or two up there covering it, soaking in the scene, talking to people, listening to the speech, that type of stuff. That's not going to happen. And it's still a cool deal, but it kind of bumps me a little bit that you're not getting the whole.
Yeah, I agree with you. You know me. I don't like to leave my house for any reason whatsoever. But I would have enjoyed going up there and covering Timmy's Hall of Fame induction. Like, that's something I was looking forward to for 5 years, and then the pandemic was really inconvenient to me.
What a great what is it? Uncasville, Connecticut.
Yeah.
What a great dateline to add to your. And Jeff's had a few great datelines through his career.
The Mohegan Sun, right? Yeah. Aren't they having it at the casino?
Yeah.
Which Tim probably would appreciate that more than the other stuff. Ability to just go up.
Yeah. When they like the night before a game in New Orleans, I'm not spilling any secrets here, but you'd go into that Harris Casino and you'd see some Spurs in there every now and then.
Some Spurs.
And one of my favorite scenes was watching. Yeah, sometimes. They like to go to bed early. And I will stress that I never saw a Spur there after me. Like, they were all leaving before I was. But one of my favorite scenes was watching Timmy in line. If you can picture the ropes where you're in line to cash out, and he just got a handful of chips, kind of shuffling in line. Yes, just shuffling in line with the rest of the rubes there at the New Orleans casino. Yes. Like he was 12th in line, just staying there patiently, shuffling through one at a time. It was just cargo shorts and a t-shirt. Nobody bothered him or anything. It was really funny.
The joke has been that Timmy's acceptance speech is going to be 30 seconds, but I think he'll be much like when his jersey was retired. He didn't speak for an hour, but I think he'll have things to say. People, above all, people to thank, and I think it'll be an entertaining little glimpse of Tim Duncan. So that's something to look forward to this week. Many things to look forward to. As always, we in this podcast looking at the bright side. We got a play-in tournament, which should be one of the most riveting play-in tournaments in NBA history. That's going to be coming up next week. You've got Tim Duncan going into the Hall of Fame. You probably have milestones and momentous events of your own. And in the meantime, we just implore you to keep taking care of each other and to keep it real.